Tissue culture plants. I think that those kinds of plants are a little bit misunderstood in fish keeping hobby. And I get it. Comparing to potted plants, they do look a bit odd. Some people don't know how to use them, some are just scared of them, or simply they don't see the point of choosing this in vitro over classic potted plants. But personally, I just love them. This tank, for example, was planted with in vitro plants. This one as well. I use those plants all the time with fantastic results. So in this video, I will try to cover everything you need to know about in vitro plants. Advantages, disadvantages, how to use them, how to make the best out of them. So, let's get started. In vitro plants, also known as tissue culture plants, are grown from very small pieces of plant tissue in sterilized environment. They are sold in small plastic containers, just like these ones. In the past, those containers were always filled with that nutrient-rich gel that provided everything that those plants need to develop roots and grow into mature plants. But these days, I can see that more producers are moving into special fluid instead of that gel. Its function is exactly the same, it's just the form that is a little bit different. There are many plant types that you can buy in vitro form, including very popular stem plants, epiphytes, carpeting plants, and mosses. So there are many different plants to choose from. But before you do and start considering to use in vitro plants in your tanks, I would like you to understand their benefits, but also to be aware of the problems that come with them. First of all, sterility. As already mentioned, in vitro plants are grown in sterile environment. That means that they are free from all risks associated with potted plants like pest snails, unwanted parasites, or eggs. They are also completely free from algae, so you don't have to be worried about sudden algae outbreak coming from the plants. Plus, there is no chance to get any other plants like duckweed or small particles of unwanted moss. All you get is clean, specific type of plant and absolutely nothing else. Second thing is cost. This will be a little bit controversial, maybe counterintuitive even. But I think that even though in vitro cups sometimes are more expensive than potted plants, in the long run they are cheaper per plant. It's because in each cup there are many individual plants, much more than in potted versions. Yes, of course, they are smaller, but the number of stems or rosettes per cup is much higher than in potted version of the same plant. This is especially relevant for stem plants. Next thing is simplicity. Tissue plants are very easy to prepare. You don't have to clean them from this wool that potted plants come with. And cleaning potted plants really can be annoying. But here, all you need to do is rinse them and they are good to go. Now it's even easier with those liquid versions instead of gel. And that simplicity extends to my next point. Storage. I love the fact that they are so easy to keep. If you just put them in cooler place with some access to the light, they can last for days and sometimes weeks. For example, indirect light from your tanks is perfect for that. With potted plants, you will really need to use them immediately or have some dedicated tank or storage area with very high humidity to keep them alive. With in vitro, there is no such problem. Next thing is propagation potential. I like to propagate a lot of plants. If you've seen my videos about Anubias, Bucephalandra and other plants, when I propagate them, very often I use in vitro plants as a source. In vitro plants are just great material for that. They are already adjusted to immersed form, there is always a lot of them in a single cup. They are basically prepared for you to keep them in nutrient-rich environment. Take this Monte Carlo for instance, all from single cup. That moss, all from in vitro versions. If you want to propagate plants, in vitro is the way to go. If you're interested, I'm linking a lot of propagation videos in the description. But now let's move to the next thing. Environment. Production of in vitro plants is more friendly for the environment. Plant producers use a lot less water, those plants occupy much less space and need less power. And we, as end users, we can prepare those plants faster with less water. And I like that. On global scale, it really adds up. But it's not all perfect with in vitro. Just because I like them doesn't mean I will hide problems associated with in vitro. Starting from fragility. In vitro plants are much more delicate than potted plants. This makes planting process a bit difficult because we need to be a little more careful with them and try not to crush or destroy them in the process. Next point, their size. They are very small, much smaller than potted versions. This also might be problematic during planting, especially because quite often they have very small root system. This also requires a little bit more planning on where and how close to each other you should plant those plants. With potted plants, you more or less see what to expect, how big they will be, how many you have. With in vitro, it might not be obvious to envision end result. Look here, this is Rotala atra in vitro version. Look how different it looks from the final form and how big and dense it got. And I had to use only 1 cup, and I had a lot of leftovers. Lastly, slower initial growth. In vitro plants, at the very beginning will start to grow immediately, but not very quickly, slower than potted plants. They just need to adapt to the new environment before they really take off. It's also true for potted plants, yes, but from my experience, potted plants do adjust a little bit faster. And now let's talk about how to deal with in vitro plants. First of all, you will need to prepare them before planting. Luckily, like I mentioned before, it's easier than in case of potted plants, and all you have to do is gently remove them from the container and rinse them to remove any gel or liquid. Then place them in some water so they can slowly start adapting to water conditions. Next thing to remember is that in vitro plants are always grown in very nutrient-rich medium, and they may require additional nutrients to survive in your aquarium, especially at the beginning. Consider adding a little bit of liquid fertilizer and root taps to the substrate to provide all those necessary nutrients. On top of that, because of the way they are grown, they respond very well to high-tech tanks. CO2 is not necessary, don't get me wrong, but it really helps them with the process of adapting to water conditions when they are losing direct access to the air. And remember, it takes time for in vitro plants to really take off. And the plant mass at the beginning, it's not very big. So you need to be extra careful to establish balance between fertilization, light, and plant mass. But even though at the beginning it will not look like much, and you can expect some melting, they will quickly transform into something amazing. Remember that potted plants, they also melt. That's normal. But I did run some comparisons, and for me, in vitro plants are coming back really strong. So in vitro plants are just a great material for densely planted tanks, even if they don't look like it at the beginning. They are safe, easy to store, easy to propagate. They might look weird in comparison to potted plants, but don't be scared of using them. With little care, nutrients, proper light, you can successfully use in vitro plants to create beautiful and healthy planted tank. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.